सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततत्कतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। So let us chant 5 verses, starting with number 14 of the 8th chapter, and each half a line we will repeat just for emphasis. Practice rather, not emphasis, but practice. So starting with verse number 14, Ananya Chetaha Satatam. Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha. Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha. Tasyaham Sulabhav Partha Nityayuktasya Yoginaha. Tasyaham Sulabhav Partha Nityayuktasya Yoginaha. Mamupetya Punarjanma Dukkhalayamashashvatam. Mamupetya Punarjanma Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Napnuvanti Mahatmanaha Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha. Napnuvanti Mahatmanaha Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha. Abrahma Bhuvanar Lokaha Punaravartinorjuna. Abrahma Bhuvanan Lokaha Punaravartinorjuna. Mamupetitu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. Mamupetitu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu. Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Tehoratra Vido Janaha. Ratrim Yuga Sahasranam Tehoratra Vido Janaha. Avyaktadyvaktayas sarvaha prabhavanti aharagame. Avyaktadyvakta sarvaha prabhavanti aharagame. Ratriagame Ratriagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta samgyake. Ratriagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta samgyake. All right. So last time when we had talked, we had finished the topic that Arjuna had asked about how best to remember you when my life is nearing its end, and how should I look at that. So this was the question number 7, which was given in the second verse. Prayana kale cha katham gyeyosi niyatatmabhihi. So that question was answered with a series of verses that we have now done. And that started with verse number 5. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati samadbhavam yatina atya samshayaha. Atra samshayaha. And so that whole topic is now wrapped up in the 13th verse. Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran yaf prayati tyajandeham sayati paramam gatim. So the general trend of that was that towards the end of your life, you should grasp someone who will take care of you if you have not understood the difference, understood the non-difference between God and yourself. You see, so if you have already understood that your ahankara, your jivatvam, your ability to be a separate person is mithya. In other words, if you have not yet understood that as a wave of the ocean, you are really nothing but the water itself, you are the very ocean, but you have a sense that I am a separate wave, and you're worried about your consequences, where you're going to go. And so the whole teaching is the teaching to a wave and saying, please see you are okay. Nothing is going to happen to you. You're never going to be born again. There's no reason to be born again. You, in fact, are the whole ocean. You are the very ocean of consciousness. Instead of having a separate identity as a person, the separate identity as a person is just like a cloud covering the sun. It's not, there's no real darkness per se. If you just remove that cloud covering, you find that the sun is there always, always there. So this was the teaching given. But in case you are not quite there yet, because it takes a while for you to uncover your problems and to understand that you are, in fact, you are not there. In fact, only I am there. I, the Parameshwara, is you. And you as a separate ahankara is just an unnecessary covering that you are just using in this life. There's no reality to it. This is what you need to understand. And so if you are able to figure that out in this life itself, wonderful. Then you don't need to do anything. You can understand that you and I are the same. In fact, I am the whole thing. You are just a superimposition which goes away. But in case you're not able to figure that out, then you should make sure that towards the end of your life, you understand who is it that is going to carry you to the next life. Because none of the other people that you are associated with today, including your family and friends and bank accounts and so on, is going to help you. You should understand that. Be wise about it. But doesn't mean that you don't have a helper. You do. I am your creator. I am the one that governs your lives. I'm your protector. I'm your friend. You should see that. And you're not going to be able to see it at the last minute. So you should start to get to know me as your protector. Understand me, become intelligent about it. And so that whole thing was talked about. And it says that slowly you should now get to know me. and used Om as a fulcrum, as a place to establish yourself and to understand my reality as you are reaching towards the end of the life. And if you do, then I will make sure that you are taken care of in the next phase of your existence. This is what was talked about. Now, having concluded that, he wants to talk about a few other things related to the next journey of life. And so, with that, verse number 15 is started. So, let's look into that. So, here, to set the stage for this next level of topics, Sri Krishna wants to talk about two human goals, two types of goals. One type of a human goal is towards going towards God, Ishvara. And the other human goal, he calls it the world, Jagat. And you can choose between them. Both will give you some protection, but they are fundamentally different. So let's look at the goal of the world, because that is really what we are used to, isn't it? We are used to fulfilling the goal of the world. And fulfilling the goal of the world means that we are operating within the laws of the world and trying to do the best job possible of deriving the benefit of this goal. And so those best possible job means that I have to be careful about my health. I have to protect my belongings. I have to make sure that I have some protections against earthquakes and so on and so forth, and that I have access to the food. You know it, all of those kinds of things. This is the goal of the world. And then I'm not quite sure what's going to happen to me when I am done with this. But I'm hoping that if there is a realm of possibility of the world, then I get into that part of the world which gives me a better chance of fulfilling my dreams. So this is the goal of the. So now here in this goal of the world, there are three defects in doing it. So this one we should understand. So the three defects are, one is what is called in Sanskrit dukkha mishritatvam. So in this pursuit of the goal of the world, there are three defects. One is called dukkha mishritatvam. What it means is that I do not get pure joy in accomplishing my goals within the world. So the pure ananda, pure joy, is mixed with dukkha. It's a little bit like, supposing you want to eat a candy and it's all pure, nice and so on, but mixed in there is some small dirt, pebbles. Then so you're not able to enjoy the whole candy because you always have something else that's interrupting it. But this is our experience, that there is a dukkha for acquisition of the goal. There is a dukkha means problems of lack of joy. Lack of joy in acquiring. Lack of joy in preserving. And lack of joy in the ultimate loss, which is definitely going to be there. And so if you look at, for example, just take any example, let's take children, having a child in your life. Having a child in your life is not easy. There's a lot of things that have to go right for that, and to get a child. And there is joy in doing that, but it is mixed in with a lot of work, a lot of luck, a lot of health issues, and so on. Then there is the preserving the life of your child. Problems. In fact, it's so interesting. You see people's lives that were fine before the children, and with the children, either their health problems or their wrong actions, meeting the wrong people, marrying the wrong person, creating problems for themselves, creating problems for you. So the preservation of the child is also a problem. And then eventually the loss of the separation from your child is also a problem. And so this happens in all spheres of your life. So that's the first defect, which is called dukkha mishritatva. Okay? The second defect is that no matter what I accomplish, it does not give me total satisfaction. Even if the dukkha mishritatvam is not there. So now let's look at the second one. So the second one is atriptikaratvam. Atriptikaratvam. Tripti means satisfaction. And atripti means not a lack of total satisfaction. And so even if you have some joy, there's always something better. So suppose this has happened to me, and as well I'm sure that may have happened to you as well. Suppose you had invested in some stock. Let's just say you are an investor in stocks, and the stock has done very well. And really you feel, I'm so happy that I invested in that stock. And so you sell it. You sell the stock. It actually happened to me with Tesla about 2 years ago. I bought Tesla at a very small price, at a very low price. And over the next 3 or 4, maybe 5 months, it really went up quite well. So I said, that's good. I'm so happy that I sold it. And now the stock actually went up even more than that, 10 times more than that. So I had a sense of what satisfaction I should have had, that I did well. I never expected that my stock investment in Tesla would do that well. If somebody had said that supposing it doubles in 4 months, will you be happy with it? I said, absolutely. And it did, something like that. But you know what? After I sold it, it went up even more. So now a sense of regret came in. I said, why did I sell it? If I had just kept it on. This is our life. You don't get total satisfaction anywhere. This is interesting. I was reading a commentary by Swami Maheshananji on Rudram, and which I will hope to take one of these days. I have learned a lot from my second or third reading of the Rudram, and I would like to pass that on in sometime in one of the classes. Anyway, he was talking about the difference between the two Sanskrit words called santosha and tosha. Tosha and santosha. Beautiful analysis. So they both come from the same root, tush. Tush means to be happy. That's what triggered me on this. So to be satisfied. Difference between happy and satisfied. Happy means that happy is a general term, but satisfaction is a relative term. That you had some expectations, and relative to that, if you fulfill it, that is called satisfaction. Okay? So the word tush represents satisfaction. Okay? Now there are two derivatives of this tush. One is called tosha, and one is called santosha. So tosha and santosha are two different things. What is the difference between them? Tosha means the happiness of getting something, at the acquisition of getting something, that is called tosha. That is called tosha. Okay? Santosha, on the other hand, is the happiness derived from something that you already have in your possession. See, that's the difference. See, look the difference? The difference is tosha means the satisfaction of the process of getting something. Santosha is the process of deriving satisfaction from something that is already in your possession. So this is a long discussion, but in fact, the Hindu, I'm not saying Indian, but a Hindu marriage system is a classic example of that. How? So, in the I'm not saying this is only Hindu, it's not true, but in many of the accepted ways of getting married in the world, you fall in love with someone. You are attracted to someone, and you get married, and you have a sense of satisfaction when you get married. So this is called tosha. So tosha means that you have to depend upon love to emanate in your heart. And you do not marry, you are not seen to be marrying anyone unless you have love in your heart. You do not go around telling someone, I don't really quite love you and like you, but why don't we get married? Yeah, that doesn't happen. Something has to happen to invoke a sense of love and attraction to the other person. And then you tie your knot together and you go home, and you have a sense of, my gosh, this is wonderful. I'm so happy that we got married. It's called tosha. Then what is santosha? Santosha is the Hindu marriage system. In the Hindu marriage system, you don't derive satisfaction from the event of love and attraction. You don't derive that. That doesn't happen. Very rarely does it happen. In the old days, people didn't even know, they had never even met their spouses. I was telling you this example, I may have given you this, that my maternal uncle, who was quite a bit younger than my mother, And in fact, I lived with him and my grandfather in Amritsar for quite a while because there were no good schools in Bihar, and so my mother and father asked me to stay with my mom's parents, and their middle son, not the youngest son, their middle son, Yashpal, was married in the year, I think either 1949 or 1950. And I was about 8 or 9 years old at that time. So I remember the scene very well. So my grandfather and mother had gone to see a girl in New Delhi. And when they came back in a rickshaw with lots of fruits. There's a big basket of fruit. The whole rickshaw was being a small rickshaw that had the basket of fruit. I still remember that scene very well. What that meant was that the marriage will be consummated. It was accepted that the girl will come. Now, my Mamaji, Palma Yashmal, had never even seen the girl, had no idea. There were no pictures or anything. It was just a visual description, and my grandparents said, yeah, yeah, she's a very nice person. Yeah, it's all been decided, and we have to figure out when to get married and so on. This is how the marriage took place. A very happy marriage took place, and they lived for a long time. She is actually still alive, my mommy ji. In fact, we had a birthday Zoom call with her about 4 or 5 months ago. He had passed away quite a while ago. But anyway, the satisfaction of the marriage was santosha. It was not an event based on love, but the love then was worked on, and you have some opportunity to develop it on a longer term basis, because the love of a woman or a man, when they first fall in love, can disappear. It usually does. But the endurance of santosha is much more, because you have developed a certain sense of belonging, which is not based on just mere attraction. You just accept the whole person as it is. Of course, there are problems. Who doesn't? But the problems of life there are taken with a sense of that this will be okay long term. And so this is called santosha. Anyway, I just wanted to give you that interlude separately. Beautiful section discussed by Swami Maheshananji between tosha and santosha. Anyway, back to the other one. So the goal of staying within the realm of the possibility of this world has a second effect, which is called atriptikaratvam, that you are never totally satisfied. No matter how much money you make, how much success you have, there is something which exceeds your expectation, and you always have a sense of, I wish I had that. So this is the second one. Then the third defect is bandhakatvam. Bandhakatvam. Bandhakatvam means that in this goal, you have to depend on external factors. It is not within your own self. You always have dependence on other things, people, situations, fate, and so on. And you cannot be totally secure. You can be relatively secure, do the best you can, but it is still a work in process. There is no end to it. So this is the goal of the world. The goal of God, on the other hand, does not have any one of these three defects. It is not dukkha mishritatvam. It does not have atriptikaratvam, and it does not have bandhakatvam. It is there is no mixture in ananda with anananda. No, it's pure ananda. There is lasting satisfaction and there is total independence. This is what we are deriving towards. This is what we are driving towards, not deriving, driving towards. So I think this is an important thing to see, that as long as I'm dependent on other things, I can never be completely happy. Never. I can relatively be happy, but not totally. And so, really speaking, the waking up to this knowledge is to understand my inherent non-dependence, which I don't yet understand. So the whole goal, the spiritual goal that we are going through, is to see that you are independent. Please don't you see it. I don't see it yet. So this is the goal towards the God. So with that, one thing that we should be clear about is that when Krishna also says, so let's look at the word meaning, then I'll explain this. So look at the number 15. So in 15 it says, Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam na apnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gataha. He says, having attained me, so let's look at the word attain, having attained me, mam upetya, then the taking up another birth, punarjanma. What kind of janma? Dukkha alayam ashashvatam. So you can say, well, what's wrong with taking another birth? This is kind of like good that we can just be born again and again. There's no problem. There is a problem. The problem is that if you really analyze it, this life basically is nothing but dukkhalayam. Dukkhalayam means it is the abode of problems. The life is nothing but the house of problems. So the word alayam is an interesting one. Alayam means the abode. So the word Himalaya is where it is the abode of Hima, which is snow. So the house of snow is called Himalaya. It is totally covered. I don't know for how long with this global warming, there's a possibility that it may not be covered permanently, but hopefully it'll be okay. So Himalaya. So there is Dukkhalaya. Dukkhalaya means abode, a house of nothing but dukkha. And ashashvatam. There's an interesting Western saying that I heard somewhere. He says, life is a bitch and then it ends. An interesting saying. He says, really the whole life is nothing but problems. And at the end of that, it ends. In a way, it is good that it ends. And it doesn't really end because it is only an interlude before the next phase of the Dukhalayam starts. And so this is what Sri Krishna is saying. He says, Mam upetya, having attained me, the punarjanma, which is the nature of Dukhalayam ashashvatam na apnuvanti. You do not, having attained me, you don't have to go through punarjanma, which is nature of problems. You won't have any problems whatsoever. So if you look at the path of attaining God, this is the one that I want to explain a little bit further as to what attaining God means. But for the now, if you just take the path of God rather than the world, then you don't have those three gunas, those three defects that we talked about in the world. Dukkha mishritatvam, etc., etc. You are totally satisfied. Okay? So that's the essence of this sentence. Now, I wanted to comment on mamupetya. Mamupetya means having attained me. So what is the meaning of having attained me? What does attaining God mean? Reaching God means? What does it mean? So really what we should understand is reaching God means becoming independent. Only way to be totally happy is not be dependent on anything. So the only question is it possible? Isn't it pie in the sky to say that I can be independent when I have a body and I have mental issues and I've got problems and so on and so forth? How can I be independent? So there, the Shastra says, the Vedic Shastra says, no, it's not. In fact, you cannot say it is possible. We agree with you. It is not possible. It is not possible to become independent. Really? Then why are we studying all this? Why are we going through all this exercise? If you are also saying it's not possible, I am also saying it is not possible to attain because you are already independent. You do not understand it. Praptasya prapti. There was Swami Dayananji had given this example. He said, there was there was a person who met God and said, I understand you are capable of giving everything. You are Sarvagyaha, Sarvashaktiman, you are capable of, you're all powerful. Isn't that right? So the God says, yep, that's me. Anything that people want, I can give it to you. So he says, I can ask for anything? He says, yeah, you can ask for anything. He says, okay. God, please give me a head. And God thought about it. He says, oh my God. I don't think I can give that to him. So the person said, what are you thinking of? Didn't I just ask you, give me a head? God said, you got me. I'm not incapable of doing everything. You are absolutely right. There are some things that I cannot do. This is why. Because you already have a head. I can give you another head if you want, like I gave 10 heads to Ravana. But you already have a head. How can I give it to you? All I can do is to try to remove your stupidity of asking that question. So attaining God means what? Attaining God means understanding that I have God-like qualities already in me. Not in me, that is me. So this is where my ahankara is keeping me separate from Ishvara. The ahankara is, it's like a dream character which says, I wish I was awake. Then be awake. Then you'll disappear. Only when you disappear as a dreamer will you be awake. You can, no, I want to be a dreamer while I'm awake. Not possible. You cannot keep your ahankara. And then you want, this is exactly what we do. We want to we want to increase our bigness of all kind. I want to be more famous. I want to be more rich. I want to be more popular. How long can you keep on doing it? So the attainment of God, mam upetya. So this is the thing that I want to leave as explaining this part. Mam upetya doesn't mean as though you are reaching me. You are in fact reaching the inner yourself alone. So there the Jivatma becomes Paramatma. You have that power. I have in my puja room, so I have various vigrahas. I have Dakshinamurti, I have Swami Dayanandji and Lakshmi and so on and so forth. And one of them, with my wife also chants, is the Hanumanam, Chalisa. And so when I do my namaskara to all the vigrahas in the morning, when I go to Hanumanam, Anjaneyam, here are the thoughts that I have towards that. Two thoughts with respect to Hanumanam. One is devotion. By praying to Hanuman, I am praying to my sense of devotion to Ishvara. Not easy. You have to invoke it again and again and again. You really look upon your entire existence as nothing but a manifestation of Ishvara. This is an important thing that we will probably cover sometime. If you look at what all the acharyas says, you cannot look at the world partially. You cannot say, these classes are doing okay, but the rest of the things I don't like. You cannot do that. It's all, there's no spiritual and secular separately. It's all spiritual. And until you come to terms with the fact that it is all part and parcel of the existence, and in fact I am separate from the existence, that thinking has to come. So the devotion is what I am really looking for when I look at Hanuman. The other thing I look at when I do namaskara to Hanuman is the hidden power that each one of us has. And so, as you know, the story of Hanuman was that he was the son of Vayuputra. And he had the ability to be as swift as his father, Vayu. Because that was in his genes. Even though he was a Vanara, he was like a monkey-like. It's not monkey, but a monkey-like. That's the word Vanara. So Vanara means Nara Nava. Is it a human being or is it not? So this is the peculiar quality of the Vanaras. It looks like it has the look of a monkey, but it has have the qualities of a human being. This is what we call a Vanara. Anyway, so being the very son of Vayu, he did not trust and know that he had that power. What power? That he could fly across the 40 miles to Sri Lanka and set it on fire. He didn't know that. But some of the elders in his community knew that. He says, Hanuman, get up. This is your chance. Rama needs your help. And so he finally, this is the picture where you expand your chest and you see the picture of Sita and says, I want to get there. So very similarly to that, when I'm devoted, when I do my devotion, when I'm doing prayers to Hanuman, there are two qualities that I want to develop. One of them is increased devotion to a sense of choosing God as my goal, because I'm surrounded by the world, which unnecessarily is attractive, even though it does not give me the total satisfaction. So I have to keep my guard on all the time. So this is one thing. The second thing that I would do is to invoke the power which is within me. I'm capable of becoming Paramatma. I should remember that. Why are we capable? Because that is our nature. So anyway, we need to. Going back to this word mamupetya. So the attaining God means discovering the qualities of God within myself. Swami Dayanandji had once made a very interesting comment, and I have always remembered that. He says, one thing we should do is not to be a permanent student of Vedanta. He says there are problems in doing that. Why? Because you feel, well, I don't think I can become as a Swami. That is just very difficult. All I can do is to keep on learning as a student. Yes, I'm a devoted student and I'll just keep on doing it. If that's the case, you are setting your goals too low. Our goal should be, why not I also become a Swami? You don't have to put on these ochre clothes and renounce the world to become a Swami. Doesn't matter, doesn't happen, doesn't need to be that. If that was the case, it would have happened a long time ago. Just continue doing what you're doing, but be as capable as any other. Why can't I do it? If I'm not in this life, maybe in the next life. Doesn't matter. So your goals should be very high. That is the potential of the Hanuman that I want to invoke whenever I do my prayers to him in the morning. So now to close off that topic, Mamupetya should not mean you are reaching me or anything like this. You're already there. You just have to invoke your power and your understanding to do so. Anyway, so what it's saying is that you choose either of those two paths. I hope you choose God. Having attained me, these great souls do not take rebirth, which is an ephemeral abode of misery. They have attained liberation, ultimate. You do the same thing. That's what number 15 says. Okay. In the Rudram, the commentary on Rudram, I was reviewing Swami Dayananji's. I'm just these days in the morning. I'm just revising the words and the concepts of Rudram, both Swami Dayananji's book and also Swami Maheshananji's book. So I'm doing both of them. This is a project that is going on in the mornings for me. I really am enjoying that very much. But there, as part of that discussion, Swami Dayananji had said, just grab some water. That that in this whole creation of the world, Ishvara has given 5 possibilities. Okay, and those 5 are Janma, creation of something; Sthiti, which is the continuation of the birth, continuation of the state of the being after birth; and Laya, which is a dissolution of the state of being, state of a formful being. And then Bandhakatvam and Mokshatvam. So, Janma, Sthiti, Laya, Bandha and Moksha. These are the 5 principal kriyas that we are endowed with, each one of us in our lives. So if you look at that, so what it means is that we as a human being, as any other living being, but let's talk about the human beings, that's who we are communicating with. As human beings, we have a start, we have a janma, we have a beginning. We all do. This is common to all 5 of them are common. All 5 things are common to each one of us. We have janma. Then having been born, then we have a state of beingness. Changing, etc., whatever it is, with problems, non-problems. But anyway, this is the sthiti. Then we have laya, which means that we will go back to our fundamental parts of the body. The body will go back to the earth, and the software will go on to the next phase of our life. Anyway, there's laya. Then, along with this life, with the sthiti, janma, and laya, there is bandha and moksha. So this is all a possibility of Ishvara. This is Ishvara's creation. So that means that bandha means that as long as you don't know the nature of Ishvara, you will be bound. As long as you don't know that Ishvara is really you also. You are not separate from the Ishvara. So this is what happens. We keep Ishvara at a distance. You can ask people, have you seen Ishvara lately? Is it there in San Jose? I don't think the Ishvara is in San Jose. Just like, has President Biden been coming here for that time is going to come when he has to start for re-election. Then the visits start. And appropriately, you cannot be doing visits all the time, but when the election time starts. So we say, have you seen Biden here in San Jose? He says, no, we haven't seen Biden. Just like that, you say, we don't see Ishvara in San Jose. How about in San Francisco? No, Haven't seen God in San Francisco either. Is there any place where you can see that Ishvara is there? No, we cannot see it. That means poor Ishvara has been banished forever from the rest of the world. Because look at it from any part of the world, Ishvara is not there. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you are devoid of the presence of Ishvara, and you have bandhakatvam. You have bandha. You're bound. And not knowing Ishvara, you are bound. Knowing Ishvara, you're in moksha. So therefore, in the Vedic knowledge, we say that the goal of our life, the goal of our existence, is not to do anything but to know Ishvara. And knowing Ishvara is Mam Upetya, means knowing Ishvara as being nothing but your own fundamental quality of yourself. Because those two are not different. Because if they are different, that means you are blocking Ishvara being from you. No, it's Ishvara cannot be me because I've got problems, and I don't want those problems to go to Ishvara. Hey, you don't have any problems. This is exactly the problem you're having, is that you are misplacing the problems to yourself. There's a problem with the body that has nothing to do with you. You are not the body. It's what you have to understand. Well, I don't understand it. Well, then understand it. So the moksha means to understand that I am not the body. This is what the attainment of God is. Anyway, so here in number 16, now look at number 16. So now what Krishna is going to focus in on is that you need to choose one of these two paths. The path of the world where there is punarjanma, and the path of godliness where there is not punarjanma. So those two paths are now described with some detail. So now let's look at number 16. Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartino arjuna mam upetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So he says again, there is a difference between these two paths, you may say, paths. One is lokaha. Lokaha means the world, jagat. Lokyante anubhuyante iti lokaha. Whenever what something is experienced, it is called lokaha. So he says, the lokas are punaravartinaha. So there is nothing permanent as a loka. Loka is ashashvataha. It is not there forever. It's like you're visiting some place for fun, and then after a while you have to give up. And so even in the case of heavens, of which we have 7 different heavens, they are all temporary. There is no such thing as a permanent heaven. Why not? Because they are karma phala. Karma phala means that they are the fruits of the action. And anything which is dependent on karma is the nature of phalam, which is a fruit. And the nature of fruit is, unless it's a plastic fruit that doesn't decay, the phalam decays. So all lokas decay. Punaravartinaha. And even Brahma Loka, even the loka of Brahmaji. This is not Brahman. There's a difference we should be very careful about. So Brahman is a neuter noun which is the very nature of all, the whole reality is called Brahman. This is what we are studying. Brahmaji is a masculine form which is the first human being that was designated by Ishvara. And so it's a post. Brahmaji is a post. And we will discuss it, how long that post is and so on in a minute. But in any way, even Brahmaji is a part of a loka. It is not outside the loka. So that's the distinction that he's making. So let's look at that. Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartino Arjuna mamupetya tu. Tu here means however. It distinguishes it from the first line. So the first loka is I'm reading the translation in English. All the worlds, O Arjuna, including the realm of Brahma. This is a mistake. It should not be Brahman. No, this is a mistake. It should be Brahmaji. The human being Brahma are subject to return. However, but, second line, after attaining me, O son of Kunti, there is no rebirth, O Arjuna. So, mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So, this is the second line. So, this is carries through the verse number 15. Okay. Now, in number 17, he details the Abrahma Puvanan Loka. That Loka, which is the Loka of Brahmaji, what is the duration of it and what happens to it is now given in verse number 17. So let's look at that. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahastranam Te Ahoratra Vidojana. So Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So let's look at the translation of that. Those people who are conversant with this knowledge of the night and day. So these are Ahoratra Vidoho. Ahoratra Vidaha means the one who know exactly how this thing is. Means the people who understand the truth about it. Those Janaha Viduhu. Those people who are conversant with this fact of the night and day. And there's a significance of night and day in a minute. I'll come to that. Know the day of Brahma to be lasting up to 1000 Chatur Yugas and the night to be lasting up to another 1000 Chatur Yugas. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So 1000 years. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahastranam Te Ahoratra Vidojana. He says that please see that both of them last, Brahmaji's day and Brahmaji's night last up to 1000 Chatur Yugas. 1000 day, 1000 night. Chatur Yugas. And we will now see what Chatur Yugas are. The Yuga is a duration of time, like a month or a year or something. It's a yuga, means it's a duration. So let us look at that. The unit of a yuga is 432,000 human years. See, 432,000 human years. So, when we say that, it was born 5,000, India is 3,000 years old and 5,000, we don't, we are missing it by 2 orders of magnitude. So this is a single yuga is called, this is what is called Kali Yuga. So we are right now in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means this is the yuga where conflict amongst people is predominant. It's called Kali Yuga. Kali means conflict. That's what Kali. So this is a yuga of Kali, which is 432,000 years old. Okay? And we're in the middle of it. And it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. It always does. So this is a cyclical kind of a thing. Anyway, I'm just giving you a measure of this. So the Kali Yuga is 432 years. Okay? Then the previous one to this was called Dwapara Yuga. And the Dwapara Yuga is supposed to be double the duration of Kali Yuga, which was 864,000 years. Previous to that was Treta Yuga. And Treta Yuga was 3 times 432,000. We can do this calculation separately. And then the fourth one is Krita Yuga, which is 4 times the Kali Yuga. So if you do these 4 yugas, that comes to 4,322,000 years. And so this is one complete cycle of the Chatur Yugas. Chatur Yugas means the 4 different yugas. Krita Yuga, then you have Treta Yuga, you have Dwapara, and you have Kali. All these 4 is 4,322,000 years. Okay? So now, Brahmaji's days, one day is 1,000 Chatur Yugas. So you can say 1,000 times 4,322,000, which is what? 4 billion. 433 million, whatever it is. It is 1,000 times more than 4 million, which is 4 billion. Human years. This is the day of Brahmaji. And then you have 1,000 Chatur Yugas of night of Brahmaji. So what does a night of Brahmaji mean? Night of Brahmaji means, see, there's a difference between the human nights and Brahmaji's nights. Why? Because they're very similar, but there are differences. So the human night is when we have dissolved ourselves from the world and there is nothing going on in my life. I'm in deep sleep. Leave aside the dream part. If you look at a complete dissolution in terms of a deep sleep, there's nothing going on in my life. There's no action. There is no, even if somebody touches you, you don't know it. Somebody steals your wallet next door to you, you don't know it. Somebody can steal your car from the garage, you don't know it. There's no connection to the world. This is your night. But while you are sleeping, Others may be awake. In fact, the thieves are awake at night time. They are much more awake at night time. And if not the thieves, the people on the other side of the globe are awake. People in India are awake while you are sleeping, and when Indians are asleep, you are awake. So there's always somebody the other who is awake, somebody who's good, the other who is sleeping. In the Brahma Loka, in the Brahmaji's Loka, everyone is asleep. It's very similar to the way you and I asleep, but they are all completely asleep. This is what is called pralaya, prakarshena laya. So the night is a laya, whereas Brahmaji's night is pralaya. Now, this is what this verse is saying. Let's look at this. Is it this one? I think it's maybe the next verse that it says. Just hold on just a second. Yeah, this is the next verse. So we will go into that in the next verse. But what it means is, this is an important thing to see, that there is no such thing as a beginning in the whole creation. You can use the word beginning, but in a very relative sense. How? Because you can say that the day begins. So what it means is, and we'll go over this in more detail next time, what it means when you say the day begins is that the avyakta, which was hidden, is now become vyakta. What was not visible to others, your thoughts, your actions, your aspirations, your sense of disappointment, which was all there in the seed form, it was all there. Not as though it hasn't been destroyed yet, but it was put to seed form. But now it has become visible. Similarly, in the case of Pralaya, Brahmaji's night, it's not as there's no beginning, there's no Big Bang per se. The Big Bang is there just for some expression, but it was always there. So the world really never began, it has always been there, in one form or the other. Sometimes avyakta, sometimes vyakta, sometimes visible, sometimes not visible. That's all. This is the nature of the world. And so anyway, in sketching out the two paths that each one of us has an option of taking, Krishna is sketching out the path of, if you were to, and he will close this whole topic off, that if you were to choose the world, then you will have to be awake and dying in the world of the lokas. And even Brahmaji is also not away from it. He is also a loka. That is also an experience. It's a stage of development. That's all. There's no absoluteness to it. There's only relativeness to it. So this is the direction that Krishna is taking in the last few verses of this chapter. This is a short chapter, and I don't think will take too long. And then, as I might have mentioned to you in my email, I think I mentioned it to you in my email regarding the survey, we will then switch over to, as we had promised ourselves some time ago, that we will take one chapter of the Gita and then take another text, unrelated text, go back to the next chapter. So after the chapter 8 is finished, we are hopefully going to take the Kaivalya Upanishad, and I will write to you now formally. I kind of hinted to you already to please enroll yourself if you are interested, and then after this chapter is over, we will take up Kaivalya Upanishad. Okay, so with that, I close today's class and see if you have any questions. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. As I was telling the previous class, we have a new setup. We have come up with a more powerful Wi-Fi system. Hopefully that will be enough for us to not to have any freezes. And while we are at it, we also decided to upgrade the camera. And so I was not sure how the sound will be, but people in the last class were quite happy with the sound and picture. So I hope you are too. So we will happy about the changes. All right. Very good. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful to have your presence, and I'm happy that your picture and sound are good. So happy about that. I'll wait for a few minutes to see if you had any questions. Once again, there's a couple of new people that I don't recognize. If you could kindly send me an email, vijaykapoor@gmail.com. I'd appreciate it. But happy to have you here. So if there's no other questions, I say goodbye to you, and we will see you hopefully next week. Om.